Dragon Edge.
Oh, Canada.
Put on a suit, drink water, don't drink and drive. Hey, man, call your mother.
It means nothing. It means nothing.
No, they lying to you. It's about the money.
Now you're more fluent.
It's about the money.
Yeah. Tony Malone. Mm-hmm.
You know what it's about?
What is it about?
It's about the money.
It's about the bread.
You know how much money?
How much?
Let me find out exactly the number.
What are we talking about, first of all?
Yeah, find out in a minute once I find my. Which one do you want to do? 69 million or 21 million?
69 million. What's that about?
69 million is the 3-year deal that the New England Patriots gave to Stephon Diggs.
I did hear that. Guess I did hear about that.
He's washed. 21 million, which would be 63 million over 3 years. 21 million is the 1-year deal that Russell Wilson got to go to the New York Giants.
So they got Russell Wilson in New York, and they got Jameis Winston in New York with the Giants.
Put them together, you might have a whole quarterback.
My problem with this, Tone, is who's playing quarterback in Pittsburgh? Fields is gone. Russ is gone. Who's playing quarterback and Pittsburgh has a mid first round pick. And they got rid of the kid from Pittsburgh, the University of Pittsburgh. So who's playing quarterback in Pittsburgh now?
Do they not have anybody?
They don't have anybody, Tone.
No, they have somebody.
They don't. Fields is gone. Russ is gone. Who's playing quarterback in Pittsburgh? They don't have anybody. No, they don't.
And yet they're still going to be 500.
Because Mike Tomlin is a genius. He just figures it out. I don't know how he does it, but he just does.
But no, I thought they were going to sign Aaron Rodgers.
No, that was Pittsburgh.
There you go.
That was definitely Pittsburgh.
Even though I think he should have gone. Even though I think he should have gone to Minnesota.
I think he should have gone into retirement. What? Aaron Rodgers is over. He is washed.
Yeah, he's been over, but I want him to go to Minnesota so that my prediction from 5 years ago can come true.
Which is
he's going to leave Green Bay, go to the Jets. That's not going to work, and then he's going to go to the Vikings, just like Brett Favre.
Like Brett Favre did.
Exactly. Everything. His whole career is exactly Brett Favre. Exactly. If you think about it, he comes in. Right, and younger. They draft a younger quarterback. He gets all upset about it. They battle. Finally, they think the younger guy's ready, so they decide to go with the young guy. He leaves, goes to the Jets. Jets flop, and then he ends up in Minnesota, and then he retires.
Which is kind of interesting too, because when he was in New York with the Jets, if you remember, they were 8-2 at one point. They were rolling with Brett Favre. And then it just went to pieces. Straight went to pieces. And then he gets to Minnesota, and they're in the NFC Championship game against the Saints. And he throws, not a pick six, but he throws an interception to end the game. Game's over. We don't have to do anything else.
That's what Brett Favre does.
He is a turnover machine, Tone. I will never argue that. You will never get that argument out of me.
He's a gunslinger. He's a gunslinger.
Yes. That's what they call him. 100% a gunslinger. But we ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of the jury, and in the audience, we got a bit of a condensed show tonight.
I don't even know that yet. I don't even know if we got that yet. I'm gonna keep talking. I'm gonna turn off my camera. I'm gonna find a way. I'm gonna recharge my own battery.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna charge this too. I'm gonna find a way. No. You know what? We don't load manage.
We don't load manage around here, even though load managing is not a real thing, but all right.
What do you mean it's not a real thing?
Load management. Well, the great thing about Anthony Davis is he's putting to rest all that nonsense about load managing. Don't put me in that. Don't put me in that. I am one of those guys who wants to play. And I'm under contract with the Dallas Mavericks, so I should be playing. And I know that you want to keep me out of the lineup like you did Luka 2 years ago to get a high draft pick, which ended up being Derek Lively. Great. I won't argue that part. But that's not what I'm doing. No. I'm here to play. And if I remember correctly, before he got hurt, that group that was on the floor with him and Irv and PJ and Gafford, that team looked like a very viable team. Now, I know, Tone, that you do not, I repeat, I know that you do not trade the 25-year-old. I know that for a fact, Tone. You don't trade the 25-year-old, right? So, because you don't trade the 25-year-old, I think it's the curse. It could very well be the curse of the Bambino. But when you trade the 25-year-old and you get Anthony Davis, and his team looks like it looks, it might not be that bad.
I heard a nasty rumor, and I don't
get this dude out of my chat because he makes me sick. I swear.
Ooh.
Like you can't watch the Zol, whatever his name is. Get this dude out of my chat because he always talks about I don't watch games. He's a troll. Get him out of here. Beat it.
Hey, let me. We're all over the place. Hold on a second.
Mm-hmm.
Let me start with the nasty rumor.
Mm-hmm.
I heard a nasty rumor that Dallas was going to release Anthony Davis.
He's got 3 more years left on his deal.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was so surprised.
How y'all doing? That's not happening. No, they're not doing that.
Happen, right? They're gonna force him to sit.
No, they're not gonna force him. He just played last night, so no, they're not gonna force him to sit.
Yeah, but they don't want him playing the whole. Do they want him to keep playing?
Well, they don't. They want him to sit out. I think that's what they want him to do. But he wants to play, and this goes back to my original logic, Tone, that I told you, just like Zion Williamson did when he came out and said, "I am available to play back-to-backs." Yeah. They are the ones making me sit. So if they're making me sit, they need to put that out there. That's what needs to happen. Which I got no problem with that whatsoever. I don't. I got no problem with that whatsoever. If that's what you're doing, put that out there because I'm available to play. And Anthony Davis has made it clear that he is available to play, which I love that.
Okay, so good on Anthony Davis.
Mm-hmm.
Good for him because he does have that reputation for not being. We're gonna take turns turning off our cameras. He's got that reputation for not wanting or not being available to play, and he would do it. Like honestly, like you said, I think the last 3 seasons he's played like 90% of the games or something ridiculous like that. So it's not. I think that narrative should be gone by now.
Mm-hmm.
You'd mentioned I saw that you banned this dude. Why did you ban him from the chat?
I'm sick of trolls. That's where I'm at in 2025. I don't deal with trolls. I'm sick of them.
Oh damn! Did you get the results of your rap?
Yes, I'm moving on. I got SB Sports. Fake Real Takes Over Fake Debates. I got him on Sunday.
Oh, I like him, but
I do too.
Sorry, SB. I know you're in the chat, but you're losing. It's interesting that you won that chat because I want to bring something to your attention.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember I said that the Mike, I guess?
Mm-hmm.
So he came onto my TikTok and said, "Hey, I'm challenging you. You always say that people don't. No, I'm not a judge. Not as of yet. They're still working out if they can pay me enough." He came in onto my TikTok and DM'd me and said, "Oh, you always say people duck out of debating you." And I said, "Yeah, here." And I showed you 4 or 5 examples of people challenging me, right? So he came on into my DMs and you can't see it because of this, but he maybe if I turn off this virtual background, I got to do it. Sorry, you're going to see some things in the background that you should not see. So just
long as there are no guns or no naked women, I think we're good.
Maybe I blur it. Oh,
There you go.
there we go. No, that still
That
doesn't
doesn't
work.
work neither. Nope, that
All
doesn't
right,
work
there we
neither.
go.
Mm-hmm.
So, can you
What we
see that
got?
now or no?
No, that's still like it's still bright.
No.
Mm-mm.
All right. Either way,
Either way,
doesn't matter.
Mhm.
I'll leave it blurred because it's nasty. He said, "I seen a post about you made how nobody from comments ever shows up for debates. I'm here to change that narrative and challenge you to debate on any topic." So we go through, and I say, "Okay, we agree." He says, "I said, here's kind of my rules, right? You got to be on camera, and as long as you're on camera, we're whatever the topic is. Remember, I said how much money? He said none. I said I ain't gonna do it for free, and I said okay, that's fine. I go no problem. It's been now a week since I said okay, when are we having this debate? And again, I wish you could see it, but that's the last comment. When are we having this debate? And as you can see, there's no reply.
Nothing.
No reply. So
Nothing.
I'm sure he'll jump in the comments today and say, "I'll challenge you right now, fool." But there you go. So Steph versus Magic will have to wait. Do you have the list of topics? Because I have it, but I can. Actually, no. We got a couple super chats. Let's do. Let's give our super chat some love. Let's kick right off. Fluent. I need the best Greek restaurant in Toronto. The final boss. That's a hard question for me because the best Greek food you're going to find is at my mother-in-law's house, and you're not invited. And I don't really go to Greek restaurants very much because, well, I have my mother-in-law who's a better cook than any Greek restaurant I can find. That being said, there's a couple of good places I like, but it depends on where you are in the city. So and Santorini was really good. It was at Yonge and 407, but it is under new ownership, and I haven't been since the change. So let me think of the other one. I'll think of the other one, and I'll get back to you in 30 seconds while we do this other super chat. And this is from Sir Darko. What's good, y'all? What up? Quick question. If Jokic doesn't win MVP this year, would this be the best season ever that didn't win an MVP? No.
The best season ever that didn't win MVP. I mean, I remember Jordan in '93. He averaged almost 33 a game. He didn't win the league MVP that year.
Hello. Wilt averaged 50, 25, and
yes, he did. And 62. Per game. Yes, and he did not win the league MVP that year.
So,
he didn't win the league MVP. It's plenty of great seasons. Jordan averaged 33, 8 and 8 in 1989. He didn't win the league MVP that year. Let's see. James in 2010, 2011, he had a great regular season. He didn't win the league MVP that year. How about Elgin Baylor in 62? Just so y'all know, I don't know if y'all noticed, but Elgin Baylor went almost 40 and 20 that year. He came in 4th place in league MVP votes. And he went almost 40 and 20.
That's crazy. That is crazy.
And Bob Pettit came in 5th place, and he went 30 and almost 20. And he didn't win the league MVP. So no, that's a number of different ones. How about Charles Barkley in 90? He had more first place votes than Magic, and he didn't win the league MVP in 90. Let's see. We had it flipped around in 97 and in 98. I think Jordan should have won the league MVP in 97, and Malone should have won it in 98. I think that got flipped around. Yep. So that's what that is.
All right, and to final boss, I put it in the chat because I would have said it, and you would have said, "How do you spell it?" So there it is. You want to try and read that, Jay?
You want to try and read the
name of the restaurant that
the name of the restaurant is. Hold on,
it's in the comments.
I'm looking at it right now. All right. Wow, so
Santorini is the easy one.
Yeah,
that one is Philoxenia.
Yeah. What is it called again?
Philoxenia.
Philoxenia. How about that?
Philoxenia. So that's where I probably send you. But because like there used to be, there still is, I guess, a Greek town in
Yep.
Toronto where when I
Oh, I didn't know that.
when I grew up, it was a street where it was like the street signs were in both English and Greek. There's all the Greek restaurants, all the Greek markets, all that kind of stuff. And that's where that's where all the immigrants from Greece moved to in and around that area. And that's where I grew up. Everybody spoke Greek. You knew everybody, and you could pick any restaurant with your eyes closed and go in. It's not like that anymore. Like the same street where there's all those Greek restaurants, there's now a sushi place. There's a tavern, like a English tavern.
Now, what side of town is this on? Because I'm sure, because you told me already, Tone, and for the record, Toronto is it's on the bucket list. It's one of the most. You told me it's one of the most multicultural cities in North America, which I have to. I got to get to Toronto.
No. Toronto is the most multicultural city in the world.
Okay, so it's not. So it's not one of. It's the most.
No, it's the most multicultural. Yeah,
it's the most multicultural.
Where the Greek town, where the Greek town is on the east side of Toronto.
Right.
What they call the east side of Toronto proper, on the street called Danforth.
Right.
And so that's where I grew up. And there's still good places to go there for sure.
Right.
But for my money, I live in the north end, so I go there. But I mean, honestly, the best Greek food, people are gonna laugh when I say this, is this little dive burger joint at the end of the strip of Danforth. It's actually at Danforth and Jones. I'll give them a free plug. It's called Square Boy. And if you go to Square Boy and you ask for chicken souvlaki on a pita, on a bun, whatever, it's a chicken souvlaki with just lemoni and tzatziki, you're gonna have the best you've ever tasted. And I lived in Greece, the best you've ever tasted.
That just sounds good. That sounds really good, Tom.
It's so
yeah.
Oh, but anyways, okay, no more food. So let's start at the top. Let's start Giddey up. No, Draymond Green. No, we're gonna start with Draymond. What the hell? We haven't been talking about Draymond Green at all this season. And you want to tell me the last week of March, he's all of a sudden leading the Defensive Player of the Year ladder?
Since we're on the subject of something sounding good, talk about narrative, huh, Tone?
Like, where the hell did that come from?
Since we're on that subject, talking about narrative, man. I mean, Evan Mobley has been my pick for Defensive Player of the Year the entire year. Now, don't get me wrong, Tone. Golden State, earlier in the year, I remember they jumped out the box. They were 12-3 to start the season, and they were rolling. And at one point, they were, I think, third in the league in defense. And I was talking about Golden State in terms of a championship contender. The years that they won a championship, they were in the top 3 in the league in defense, right? They either had the best defense in the league, or they were top 3 in the league. They were in the top 3 in the league in defense. So they kind of fell off a little bit. And one of the main reasons why they fell off, because their offense wasn't that good. And it didn't supplement, their defense didn't supplement that. So because Steph Curry didn't have a secondary defender, Draymond Green was responsible for a whole lot of other stuff that he just couldn't do at that time.
Right.
Enter Jimmy Butler, and now all of a sudden, the Golden State Warriors defense is now back. It's gotten a lot better. So we go from that to now Draymond Green is the favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year. So I'm thinking to myself, all right, Tony, if we're doing that, right? If we're doing that, let's not forget, you and me had this conversation a week ago that JJ Redick was a pawn. JJ Redick was a podcaster. And then they end up making this push where they win 8 or 9 straight games in a row. Now JJ Redick is at the top of the Coach of the Year list. James, before he gets hurt, we're going to forget about the 17 and 780 average. We're going to forget about him being washed and him being over. We're going to forget about that. And what we're going to do is, right, we're going to put James first team All-Pro. If we're doing that with Draymond Green, we got to do that with James too, because we can't just stop with you now entering the conversation. And this right here is evident how narratives work. If we're being honest, Ho, this is incredible how narratives work. How if you push something and if you say something enough, it could turn into something completely different. Where Draymond is now campaigning for Defensive Player of the Year. which, by the way, we're not going to sit here, Tone, and act like players haven't campaigned for themselves. I saw Chris Bosh campaigning to be an all-star when he was in Toronto. So players campaign for themselves all the time. That's not my issue. That's never been my issue, right? But with that being said, Draymond now entering the Defensive Player of the Year conversation when we weren't talking about him at all throughout the regular season.
He wasn't even like a twinkle in Daddy's eye. Like, there was no conversation about Draymond. And here's the problem.
Yep.
If him just being in the conversation does to the Defensive Player of the Year award that they've been doing to the MVP since the beginning of time, which is now it makes it mucky. You don't know what the criteria is. Because love it or hate it, sorry, 1 second, Jay Fernandez, it's not breaking news because we already started the show with Russell Wilson and Stephon Diggs. We already talked about it.
And on top of that, Tone, this makes me nuts with this chat. Like, we have topics to talk about, guys. Would y'all focus?
Let's go. Okay. So Draymond, let's stick with Draymond. Let's stick with Draymond for a second. So the Defensive Player of the Year award, love it or hate it, has always been you need to be at the top or near the top in your defensive statistics. So it could be blocks, it could be steals, it could be what do they call them? Sticks, stocks, stocks. That's stocks, yes, which are your steals and blocks combined. You always have to be at the top there. You need to be at or near the top with your advanced stats. So defensive win share, plus minus, et cetera, et cetera. Your team has to be a top 3, worst case scenario, top 5 rated defensive team. Now, whether you like or dislike that has been the criteria for every DPOY every year.
Right.
Now you're going to tell me a guy who's averaging 1 block, 1.5 steals, a 2.8 defensive win share, 7th ranked defense, all of a sudden we're gonna talk about him as Defensive Player of the Year.
Yes.
Now
Tom.
you might say his defense is a lot more than that, and you're right, and so is everybody else's who's a great defender, but that's not who the award has ever gone to in the history of the award.
Right.
So why are you changing it now? Because he has a podcast and because he has a big mouth and he's talking about it and he's, like you said, campaigning for it? Well, that's a damn shame. That's a damn shame.
And I think that's where we are. So if you
hold on. No. Hold on. Time out. No. I was not a judge. Purposely not a judge in that. So I still haven't watched your debate. Okay. Still haven't watched it because I have no reason to watch it. And so I had no vote. So if you lost, you lost. Don't look at me. Don't blame the moon and the stars and the stripes. You lost. Deal with it. Move on. Okay.
And why can't you? And why can't you just say that? That what you just said, Tone. Like, that's it right there. Like, if you would have won, I would have stepped off. But you lost, okay, and instead it was rigged. You got cheated. So you that loser. All right, I can definitely dig that. But back to your point about back to your point about Draymond. So Draymond Green, for all intents and purposes, here's the thing, Tone. You mentioned like being at the top of the league. Like Dennis Rodman never led the league in blocks or steals. That never happened. I don't think Marcus Smart was at the top of it. I don't think he ever led the league or at the top of the league in steals and blocks. But the one thing that's very important, right? The one thing that is very important that we have to mention is that team defense is huge. That's why Dyson Daniels is out of it, Tone. I mean, Dyson Daniels. Yeah. I think Atlanta's like 17th in the league in defense. They're giving up the third most points in the league. So I don't think that he's going to win it, right? Unless you guys change the criteria of what the Defensive Player of the Year is. That doesn't mean that Draymond Green is not a great defender. And even today, still being the great defender that he is, quarterbacking that Golden State Warriors defense with now Jimmy Butler on it. But before Jimmy Butler was on it, he still was quarterbacking that defense with Gary Payton, with Moody, right? With Gary Payton, with Moody, with Post, with all of these young guys who we don't really know about, right? Who we don't really know much about, but they did have a good defense. Is it Defensive Player of the Year worthy? Has Draymond Green had a better defensive season than Rudy Gobert? No, I don't think so. Absolutely not. He has not had a better defensive season overall than Rudy Gobert has. So that doesn't mean that Draymond hasn't had a good season. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to put you in conversations that you don't belong in. And that's where we are with Draymond. I feel like Draymond is putting himself in conversations that he doesn't belong in at this stretch. And now we're at a point where he's the favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year when the Cleveland Cavaliers have had a top 10 defense all year long. The Boston Celtics have had a top 5 defense, top 10 defense. So teams like this who've had some of the best defenses, the Orlando Magic have one of the best defenses in the league. The Oklahoma City Thunder, they've had the best defense in the league for the majority of the season, Tone. So
and listen, I'm not saying that the criteria is right. What I'm saying is, to your point, it's been a top-ranked team defense over. It's almost rarely the best defensive player.
Right.
Okay. Hold that thought. Hold that thought 1 second. I'll be right.
Holding that thought. So, the best defensive player in the game, when I go back and look at it, like Jaren Jackson was not the best defensive player in the game in 2023. He wasn't. He was not a better defensive player than Anthony Davis. No, that was not the case. Was Rudy Gobert the best defensive player in the game? I mean, was he better than Bam in 22? I'm not sure if he was. I'm not sure if he was better than Bam. Just like I'm not sure if Marcus Smart wasn't better than Mikal Bridges that season. But he ended up winning the Defensive Player of the Year. So when I look back on the Defensive Player of the Year, it's very much like the MVP, where sometimes the best defensive player in the game wins it. Sometimes the best defensive player in the game wins the Defensive Player of the Year. That happens. No doubt about that. But then there's times when it ends up going to somebody else. Like Giannis won it in the 2019-2020 season. Giannis won the Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, there was a legit conversation between both Giannis. There was a legit conversation between both Giannis and Anthony Davis in the 2019-2020 season for best defensive player in the year. The best defensive player. Does that mean that Rudy Gobert was the best defensive player? I mean, does that mean Giannis was the best defensive player? No, he may have had the best defensive season though. So, I mean, I think that's where we are. I don't think Draymond has had a better defensive season and more impact on a defense than what Evan Mobley has had this season, or Jaren Jackson has had this season, or what Dyson Daniels has had this season. Even though Dyson Daniels is on a lesser defensive team, I don't think that he's had that.
Don't forget my guy. Don't forget my guy. He gets ignored because there's so many good defenders on that team. But Lou Dirty Dort,
right? And I don't think that. I mean, there's plenty of guys who will tell you that they do not want to go to the Dortcher chamber. No, they don't. They do not want to be in the Dortcher chamber. So we actually had a conversation about this earlier with SGA being a defender on that team and him being like the fourth or fifth best defender on that team. And now, if you got SGA as your fourth or fifth best defender on that team, man, that says a lot about your defense. If SGA is your fourth or fifth best defender, that says a lot about your narrative.
They'll spin the narrative to like try to not give him the MVP and say, well, he's only the fourth or fifth best defender on his team. No, that's because there's a lot of good defenders on his team.
Yes, that's why. That is exactly why. There's plenty of great defenders on that team. So, this whole narrative.
Okay, do you honestly think he's going to win it though?
I don't think he's going to win it, Tone. Even though I know how narratives can skew people, I do know that. And the reason why I know that is because that's what happened in 23 when Joel Embiid won the league MVP. Even though I think that he was in the running, and I do think that he was deserving of the league MVP, but the fact that Kendrick Perkins came out.
I think it was more. I'm sorry to cut you off. I think it was more the fact that he finished second 2 years in a row, and they were like, we can't just keep snubbing him. We're gonna give him one.
I don't think it was a pity MVP though, Tone. I don't.
I think there was people who voted for him because of the narrative, and the narrative had to do with race, Two, more importantly, had to do, or actually, I guess two, and then one more importantly, would be that he was second 2 years in a row. 2 years in a row was second, and then did just as good, if not better, that third time around. So, and listen, we know that there was people who said, well, Jokic won a couple, so he's been second, and he's still playing great. So, those guys. When I say, look, there's certain people that are going to vote for this way. There's certain people that are going to vote for this way, and then there's a bunch of guys that are on the fence. And those guys on the fence, that's how they get swayed one way or the other. And honestly, that's how has always been my issue with all these awards. With all these awards is that the media who selects them, right? Some of those guys, report on that city. You know what I mean? So they, one, see that player night in and night out, have a relationship with that player, and you're going to be a little bit biased. And so when it's split, the home. That's why I said you need criteria. You need to say this is what it is, and this is what we're looking at. And okay, if there's a piece of it that's subjective, that's fine.
Sure.
But it needs to be it needs to be stuff that can't be swayed by narrative, opinion, personality. I like this guy, I don't like this guy. And that's why when I say accolades, when I do my criteria for who's a better player, right? Accolades are almost at the bottom for me. They matter, but I don't give them as much weight. Like I say, I weigh everything. Like I've told you this before, I weigh points more than steals, right? I think to give those two things the same value is ridiculous.
Right.
An MVP versus a player of the month. Sorry, those things aren't the same. So you can't.
Sure.
Not all accolades are made the same. So I do the same thing with stats. I do the same thing with accolades. So with accolades, it goes down my list because there's so many things that aren't basketball related. Like, I'm not voting for that guy because he's a jerk. No, I'm sorry.
That's why Terrell Owens ended up being the second ballot Hall of Famer. But back to which is nonsense. But back to what you just were telling me about you being in a specific city, and that's why you watch only that guy. Tone, that logic would work if it was 1988 and I was with the Bulls and I'm only watching Jordan, or if it was if I had a defensive player of the year vote and I was in Seattle and I was only watching, I don't know, Nate McMillan, and with watching Nate McMillan, I only was able to open up the paper and see that Michael Jordan had 6 steals last night and 2 blocks, and that's all I had to go on. Well, we don't live there anymore, Tone. We live in a space where you do have access to actually watch guys. You do have access to see what guys are doing. We have analytics, we have advanced stats, we have stats, we have much more information for you to just go and find out who's doing what and pay attention. Now, don't get me wrong, I know it's a lot more difficult when I am in Houston and I'm watching Amen Thompson, but I also got to pay attention to Jason Tatum and what he's doing in Boston. I got to pay attention to Bam Adebayo, what he's doing in Miami. Sure, but that's part of having a defensive player of the year vote. You can't just be subjective to your guy in Houston. You can't just be subjective to your guy in Phoenix. And because of the information that we have, you should be you should be much more versatile.
But if a vote comes down to most improved, and you're in Houston watching Thompson, and it's between him and LaMelo in Charlotte, I promise you haven't been watching Charlotte games, right? Sorry, they're available. Like, that's the part that upsets me about that narrative that you just spun, is that people say, well, in the 80s and 90s, you didn't have as much access to the games. True. Does it mean because you have more access now you're watching more?
You should be.
And the average person is not. In fact, they're probably watching less because everything is so easily segmented into these highlight packages.
Yes.
So they're watching highlights, and they're not watching Charlotte. They're not watching Washington, and I don't blame them. It's ugly basketball. They're not, let's be honest, they're not watching Toronto, whether they're good or not. People don't watch them because they think, it's a foreign country. So just because it's available, there's still only so many hours in a day, right? Like 100%. I always say to people, in the 90s, in the 80s, I was fortunate. I had a satellite dish. I was lucky. So I could pick up WGN and watch Bulls games. I could pick up KTLA and watch Laker games.
Which is super dope, by the way. Holy shit.
Yeah, that's amazing. Dope. I could pick up the Portland one, but I didn't. Not that I didn't watch Portland. Let's be honest, very often, but I could get it. I could get, so I could get a lot of different games.
And they had Drexler, by the way, during this time, guys. Just so you know. But keep going.
Here's the thing: I had access to more games than most. However, let's go through the typical day of someone. They either go to school or work 8 to 12 hours a day.
Yep.
They sleep for 7 to 8 hours a day.
Sure.
Well, that's 20 hours of your day. And and no offense, if you're watching at work, good for you. Now, reporters, well, I'll get to them in a minute. I'm talking about the regular folks for a second. So you have 4 hours. How long is the average basketball game?
2.5 or so.
So you could watch 1 3/4 games max. So the fact that you have 20 games on, that's cool. Or 10 games on tonight. How many can you actually watch? And then for those that say, well, I flip back and forth. Okay, so well then, are you focused in on the player? Could you possibly see everything that's going on if you're flipping back and forth between all those games?
No.
You can't. You're getting you're basically just getting the highlights. You're getting the red zone version, right? You're getting the red, which I love red zone, by the way, for football. You get every score. Cool. But awesome. I didn't get to see what happened on that 3rd and 1 when the offensive lineman pulled and took out 2 linebackers so that his running back could get 2 yards in that first down. And now you want me to judge that offensive lineman? Well, I didn't see that play because it wasn't a touchdown or a score. So that's all I'm saying is, yes, it's more readily available. Yes, you can go back and watch. But the reality is, when people say, "Oh, I went back and watched, Magic," no, you didn't. You watched what? 5 games out of a 900 game career.
Right.
You know what that percentage is? It's really freaking low. That's 2% or whatever the hell. I don't know. Hey Siri, what's 5 divided by 900?
5 divided by 900 is approximately 0.005556.
So 5 games out of 900 is less than 0.5%. Less than 0.5%.
Right.
So and you're going to make a judgment on a player? Heck, even if you watched 50, okay, it's 1%. So going back and watching, there isn't enough time in the day, right? Like I remember, if I may quickly, I remember a guy posting. He posted on YouTube, and then a bunch of people picked it up on TikTok and said he went back and he tracked every single game and how many dribbles it was with their right and how many dribbles with their left, and he said this, and I'm like, and I did the math. I said, if he watched that many games at 48 minutes per game, assuming he just sat there are no commercials, no timeouts, like he just had only the 48 minutes and tracked every single dribble and had access to all these games, which I know is not true because he can't. It's impossible. They didn't all exist. They weren't even all recorded. And and all this stuff. I go, it would have taken him, I forget the math, but it was like 29 years to sit and watch through if he slept for 8 hours a day and did nothing else. No food, no pee breaks, no poop, nothing.
Almost a decade.
8 hours of sleep, and then the rest of the time just watch games. And assuming he didn't make 2 decades and didn't make any errors logging it, okay, he would have had to take 29 years of his life to do that.
Right.
Which means he hasn't watched the last 20 years. Sorry, not 29, 19. He hasn't watched which means he hasn't watched the last 20 years of basketball. So how can he say one was better or worse? So it doesn't take a lot for me to be like to nip those damn nonsense narratives in the bud.
Right. And I do understand that, Tone, but I think the difference with what you're saying is, like, these casuals, they don't have defensive player of the year votes. I do though. Right. So if I have a defensive player of the year vote and I'm in New Orleans, if I got a defensive player of the year vote and I'm in Chicago, I am supposed to watch other great defenders because I can't just be subjective. I can't just be subjective if I'm in Dallas to Tyson Chandler. I got to see what Dwight Howard is doing. I have to see what LeBron James is doing. I got to see what Serge Ibaka is doing in Oklahoma City. And I have access to that, right? And that's 10 years ago, right? That's close to 15 years ago that's going on. And even today, if I have a defensive player of the year vote where I'm in Atlanta, I'm watching Dyson Daniels 100%, and I'm captivated by Dyson Daniels. Hell yes, I am. But you know what else? They got a damn good defender in Houston. His name's Amen Thompson. You know what? There's a guy who looks just like him in Detroit. That's his twin brother. He's really good too. And the reason why I'm bestowed with the Defensive Player of the Year vote is because I got to watch all of these guys. And because I have access to that, I'm going to do that. So when Draymond Green says that I'm the Defensive Player of the Year and I got a Defensive Player of the Year vote, well, wait a minute. I've been watching Dyson Daniels this season. In fact, I've said this to you in the past, I only watched the Atlanta Hawks because of Jalen Johnson and Dyson Daniels. They're the only two reasons why I watched them. So I watched Dyson Daniels. I watched Herb Jones, who hasn't played all season because he's been hurt. But I watch Mikal Bridges. I'm talking about the better defenders in the game. I watch Mikal Bridges. I watch Dyson Daniels. I watch Giannis Antetokounmpo. I watch Evan Mobley. And I watch Draymond Green. And it doesn't look like it did years ago when you were winning Defensive Player of the Year and you were that level of an elite defender. It does not look like that, what it was. And the numbers also don't say that. No, they don't.
No. And to your thing about the voters though too, you're talking about this utopian situation where a voter is getting paid to vote for Defensive Player of the Year, and he's watching and doing those things. Except in reality, he has a full-time job too, or she has a full-time job too, and it might be sports. But if they are, let's say most of them are writers, right? They'll have a podcast. Heaven forbid they have duties at ESPN. And so again, that takes up. Ask them about their schedule because they're traveling here, they're traveling there. They have it worse because most of them are also beat reporters for their team. So I got to go watch. Brian Windhurst has to go watch the Laker game. Well, that's 2.5 hours of your life.
Yep.
Again, 8 hours of sleep, that's 10. ESPN responsibilities, that's another 5. You're already at 15 hours. You honestly think 15 hours. So you think the other 9 hours, he just sits there and watches 2-3 other games of other Defensive Players of the Year? Because don't forget, he's also got, he's paying other people to do DPOY. That. He's also got DPOY. He's got MVP. He's got Most Improved. He's got Coach of the Year. And so, and let me guess, he doesn't spend any time with his family. He has no social life. He doesn't have kids. He doesn't, or she doesn't. There's so much. So that's what I'm saying is, ideally, everybody thinks, I guarantee you, everybody thinks they watch more basketball than they actually do. I guarantee you they think they watch more than they actually do. And it's not saying they don't. Let's get that straight. I'm not saying they don't watch. They do watch, but they watch based on, hey, you got to watch these guys, right? Because they're the ones that are playing really well. They're the ones that are that have an opportunity. And so it's like, okay, let me watch those guys, right? When I was watching and I had the ability to watch, right? I would look and see, well, who are the guys I want to watch? Well, I want to watch Jordan. I want to watch Magic. I want to watch Barkley. I want to watch Olajuwon. I want later in the 90s. I want to watch. I want to watch Iverson. I would pick those players and I would make sure, right? I tried to watch a game a night, and I would make sure that at least and a couple, because then we'd always have the double, triple headers on Saturdays and Sundays, and then I'd watch inside stuff to start the day. So I'd get some of those kind of perspective as well. I read, because we didn't have internet, so I'd read the newspaper for articles and whatever. But the one thing I noticed is those articles are basically just clickbait today.
That's what it is. It's Twitter. That's Twitter. That's X.
Opinion trying to get you to buy a newspaper, just like now it's one person's opinion trying to click or comment or like their post. So even those weren't always factually correct; they were opinion based. So again, I'm not saying there's more readily available for sure, but I think Draymond, to cap this off, Draymond making it in is because they were told, hey, you should watch Draymond. He's having a real big impact on Golden State,
which he is. But is it Defensive Player of the Year worthy? Should he be in the same conversation with the rest of these guys? Should he be in the same conversation with Evan Mobley at this juncture of the season? Should he be in the same conversation with Dyson Daniels? I don't think so. No, I don't.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
We
Absolutely.
Super chat, and then we're going to go off to topic number 2. Rock out. What is the ceiling for the Grizzlies, and will they ever win a chip in the future?
I think the ceiling I wouldn't be surprised if they ended up in the second round, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they got bounced in round 1. That would not surprise me with them, considering what the what the matchups look like, because the Western Conference, for all intents purposes, is a matchup-driven playoffs this season. Because there isn't one team that I can honestly say, even though I love everything that Oklahoma City is doing, and I got Oklahoma City as the favorite in the Western Conference. If I look at where Memphis is, like Memphis would have to play the Lakers. If the season ended today, they got to go on the road and they got to play the Lakers. I think they're out. I think they are out in round one. Their ceiling, their ceiling would be like if they ended up playing the Lakers, and beat the Lakers. Let's see. So you got 1-8 on this side, 2-7 on this side, 3-6 on this side, and 4-5 on this side. So the 4-5, the 4-5 winner, which is Memphis and the Lakers, would play the 2-7, which is the Houston Rockets or the Clippers. Could Memphis beat Houston? No, I don't think so. I think Houston wears them down. Amen Thompson in particular. I think that's where the road ends for them. But I think health has been a big problem for Memphis more than anything. In terms of them winning the NBA championship, man, when you talk about these small market teams, Rock, a lot of stuff has to go your way. Look at what's going on in Oklahoma City. You got to get the draft right. And they did get the draft right with Chet, with J-Dub, with Aaron Wiggins, with Casey Wallace, right? With Isaiah Joe. You got the draft right. And you essentially drafted SGA because you got him after his rookie season with the Clippers. I mean, he ended up with the Clippers and you ended up getting him in a trade. That ended up working out. And you get Hartenstein. So a lot of things have to a lot of stuff has to go your way, especially when you are a small market team. When you're a big market team, I do think that there are things that have to go your way, but you're more susceptible for things to go your way in terms of free agents. Like if you're in Miami, if you're in New York or in Los Angeles, you're more apt to get guys to come play there as opposed to in Oklahoma City. I mean, don't get me, you're sure Hartenstein came to Oklahoma City, but Hartenstein came to Oklahoma City for $85 million. I tell you what, if the Lakers had $85 million, if the Lakers had $100 million, Hartenstein's ass would be right on Figueroa. He would not be in Oklahoma City. If the Lakers had $90 million and they put that $90 million on the table for him, he would not be in Oklahoma City. No, he wouldn't.
So let me answer the question, and I'll play devil's advocate for a second.
Yep.
So if the playoffs were to start today, they'd have the Lakers in round one. So let me take my Laker fan hat off for a second.
Mm-hmm.
So they got Lakers in round one. If everybody's healthy, right? They've got Zach Edey, they got Jaren Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Is Steven Adams?
Steven Adams is in Houston. He's not in Memphis anymore.
He's gone, right? Okay.
Yeah, he's in Houston. Mm-hmm.
No.
Adams
right. Yeah, he's gone too. Yeah. So, but the size of Jaren Jackson, and I don't know why I keep forgetting Zach Edey's name. I shouldn't. I like him too much. That could give the Lakers problems because the one thing the Lakers don't have is size. So they also have had LeBron's been hurt a little bit. We've seen Luka get hurt a little bit. So they're an injury away from being able to upset, because I think it would be a huge upset at this point if they were to beat the Lakers. Let me say, it's not what I'm picking because I'm saying I'm playing devil's advocate. So you move on. So let's say they beat the Lakers because of injury, because of the size, blah, 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 whatever. So they play OKC in the second round. OKC would it be
OKC? I think they're on the other side, Tone. I think they're on the 2-7 side, which is Houston and the Clippers. OKC's on the side. It's 1-8, 3-6.
No, they play OKC.
Would they play OKC?
Yeah. The winner of 1-8 is the winner of 4-5, and so they have OKC. Again,
right.
OKC is an unproven, good regular season team. We haven't seen what they can do in the playoffs. Could they beat OKC is the question.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say they do. So if they do that, then they'd have to beat probably the winner of Houston, Denver. Like the road for them to get to an NBA final is so difficult that it just there's no even me trying to explain it away. Like I'm trying to give them old players that aren't even on their team anymore so that I can help
Right.
them, because I don't see that there's a way that they can I
Sure.
don't see a way where they
Me
I don't see a way where
neither.
they can do it. I don't see how they can do it.
Me neither. I and on top of that, you know, one of their best dirty work players in Brandon Clark, he's out for the rest of the season.
And
right?
let me just say, anyone who pretends to have every single player on every single roster memorized is a liar, and maybe that's why they keep their camera off, so they keep looking at their notes. So take that. Go ahead.
So
next.
to Tone, you know, and you've actually raved about my memory. I could not run down the Minnesota Timberwolves roster. I couldn't do it. I could not run down the Portland Trailblazers roster. And I know a lot of guys that play for the Trailblazers. I cannot tell you how many guys play. I cannot run down the New Orleans Pelicans roster. I know a lot of guys on the roster, but I couldn't do it. No,
Yeah.
I could not.
Especially one who's on. And again, I always ask you, because your memory is better than mine. I always ask you because I have a bad memory. I'm getting old. I have to look. I need to look up stuff because I don't remember. But I'm smart enough to know that I don't remember, and that's why I'm like I double check with you. I didn't think he was, and that's why I said he's not on there anymore. Right? Okay.
Yeah, he's in Houston.
But
He's in
still,
Houston
they have
now.
the size. With Jaren Jackson and Zach Edey, they have more size than any of those other teams. So that's the only thing I can think of is if they get lucky with, you know, the other team, unlucky, but if they get lucky with injuries and the other guys, and then they somehow manage to use their size, if John Morant goes nuts, right? Like, could John Morant have a series against OKC that kind of him nullifies what SGA is doing? Man, that's going to take a lot of work.
All right. Okay.
So I tried, but I don't see how it could work. Yeah, we'd never know if you didn't look at notes because you're scared to show your face. All right. The next thing is Giddey. Giddy up. When he was traded to Chicago for Elmer Fudd, everyone was like, "Ooh, they got robbed. They got robbed. I can't believe it. They got robbed." But since the All-Star break,
I never thought about that. Alex Caruso dude got an Elmer Fudd vibe. Yes, he does.
You've never thought about that, really?
I never thought about that, Tone, but it's crazy that you bring that up because he does kind of, especially with that headband or Space Jam.
Oh yeah,
he does kind of give me an Elmer Fudd vibe. Yes, he does. But anyway, like
he's been playing. He's been playing like way above what I expected, right? Yep. Because I thought, you know, after what happened kind of with his off-season stuff, and you know, a lot of times, you know, when off the court stuff happens, yep. It can distract you from playing, and maybe that's what was going on in the first. I don't know, but since the All-Star break, I want to get it right. Excuse me. Since the All-Star break, he is 22.6 points per game, 10.3 rebounds per game, 9.1 assists per game on just over 54% field goal percentage.
And this is a guy who was basically outcast in Oklahoma City because he needs the ball in his hands because that's what he is. He's a lead guard. But they also have a guy in Oklahoma City with the ball in his hands in SGA. So you clearly are going to go in a different direction if you already got a guy with the. If I got to choose between Josh Giddey and SGA, I mean, that's really not a choice. I'm going to go with SGA. I don't think that that's a question. However, when I think about how Josh Giddey fits as a lead guard, so essentially what you told me, Tone, is since the All-Star break, he's a 20-10 guy. With him being a 20-10 guy, I watched him in the Olympics. I always marvel at a guy who can get downhill and get to the rim, and not just get to the rim and finish, but get to the rim and create shots for other people. And I think Josh Giddey is damn good at that. At 6'7", I think he's damn good at getting to the rim and being able to finish. And on top of that, being able to be a respectable jump shooter where he can stretch the defense and keep defenses honest. And I think that the Bulls have their guy. I'm not on the fence when I say this. I think that they have a guy that they can build their unit around for the future. Him and this kid Baselis, who, from what I understand, he's from Chicago. I love the athlete that he is. I love how tough he is. I love how the good transition player that he is. He's got to work on some stuff like coming off screens, reading defenses, being able to net.
I don't like what he did. I don't like what he did to my Lakers. Tell you that much right now.
Of course, you don't like what he did to the Lakers off
that.
the bench. They put almost 150 on him. Absolutely, but there's things that he still has to work on. But I think that I don't think that there's anybody. I'm not going to say that there's not anybody better. I think the Bulls did a good job in getting a lead guard to help him do that, right? To help him be able to read defenses.
You were on the panel. You were on the panel. Did Ox tell you guys when the trade was made that Giddey is better than Caruso?
He did say
AKA,
that. We wrote and when he said that, we when Ox said that, we were a WWE tag team, and we attacked Ox for that, clotheslined him. Even though I feel the way I do about Josh Giddey, we weren't trying to hear Ox when he was telling us that Josh Giddey is better than Alex Caruso. No, we were not trying to hear that.
Yeah, and I'll admit, I did not think that. I did not say that. However, I also thought that Caruso was overrated. And I said this to you when he made the all-defensive team. And I'm like, how can a guy who has zero offensive responsibility, who only plays, 20-some-odd minutes a game, how are they putting him all-defensive team? It's not fair to these other guys who have to carry an offensive load, have to play 30, 35 minutes a game. I go, it's an unfair comparison. Of course, I can go in for less time and not have to worry about anything else and do a good job because I go in for less time and I don't have to worry about anything else. And I get to D up second unit guys. And if nothing else, yes, I'm going to bring it up. If nothing else, Bronny James has taught us if you go up against second unit guys, even the most average of players can have a good game. Because what he do, just FYI, what he do the game after? Oh, for again. But anyways, let me just answer this because I brought up Ox on the panel. So Fluent, why are you not on the panel anymore? One of your favorites? Nah, man, your favorite. If you say that, then it's cool. But it's just timing. The time of day that it's on, I can't. However, you want breaking news? Do you want breaking news?
Yes. What's breaking news?
I will be joining from the logo.
How about
starting
that?
April 1st with ZZ and the boys. Starting April 1st, I will be joining because it's on at night. So
that works with your schedule.
And it works with my schedule. And I'm also, you and I are going to do some playbacks. You don't know
That's
this
good
yet.
news. I don't know this yet. I don't know that I was today years old when I found out that you and I are going to do some playbacks. I did not know
There you
that.
go.
That's good news. It's obvious some things
There
are
you
going on behind the scenes that I don't know about. That's probably good. That's probably good that I don't know about. Everything ain't my business.
Let me handle the business stuff.
Yeah, everything ain't my business. Not everything.
Oh, it is your business, but you don't need to worry yourself with those minor things. There's more. We've got about 20 more subjects, but I want to quickly just say there's been some controversy about LeBron LeCapping again. Did he know that the trade was happening? Did he not know? Marcus Morris said he wanted
his brother
Markieff Morris, but now they're saying no, it meant like after the fact and but that it sounds like he knew. And I had a bunch of LeBron guys say, well, it might have been just, in the last minutes. I don't care if it was 1 second before it happened. He said, I knew nothing about it until after. And that's a lot. And I believe Maury Povich would say the results came in. That's a lie.
Tone, he said he didn't find out about this. And any of y'all know me. Y'all know that I'm a James guy. James is my guy. Any of y'all know me. Y'all know he's my guy. And I pay a lot of attention to James. And when this trade went down, I tried to get a hold of my man over here. He would not answer the phone. He was not trying to hear it. Not that late at night. He was not trying to hear it.
I was sleeping. I was sleeping.
He was not trying to hear it that late at night. So
12:30.
James made it clear that he didn't find out until he was at dinner. That's how he found out about it. But then Morris, which what I'm not a fan of, Tone, is I'm not a fan of gossip. I'd much rather right? I much rather get the truth from the source. And Morris, who his brother, this is information that I'm getting from the source. And he's saying that James asked for Markeith, which means that you knew about this before it was going to happen. You specifically asked for him.
I'm sure he was just asking for Markeith with no idea about anything else about Dallas.
You knew about this specifically. So it makes it, and again, I'm Tony Montana. I'm Tony Montana's lawyer. You know, it's beyond a reasonable doubt, and I'm an expert at bringing up that doubt, right? However, when you do stuff like this, you make it really difficult for me to defend you. You just do. And my man over here who loves to make fun of you, and I get on his ass about it all the time, it's stuff like this right here that, oh man, you're killing me. But I'm still able to handle it. I can still do it. Yeah, I can definitely do it. And oh goodness. Give me a break.
I have two things. One, this is to piss off those fanboys, because you know I love to piss people off. So
Uh-oh. See, Akron class of 2003.
just look right under the name of the person.
LeBron James. Hell yeah. Congratulations. King
See what it
James.
says right there?
It says what does that say? Fluent? No.
No. It says follows you.
Oh, he follows you. How about that?
Just wait till Goat James Kingdom sees that. They're gonna lose their mind. And then the more important thing, I keep forgetting to tell you. Forgetting to tell you this, and it's very important. It's very, very important news. And then we'll get back to other NBA stuff. But
we got more
look
stuff.
who's officially, you can't read all that, but basically it says blah, 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 blah. You are officially
you're a free agent.
Free agent.
Yeah, you're a free agent.
I officially, since I went undrafted, as you know, I was in the 2024 draft.
Mm-hmm.
I undrafted. Shame on you, Mavericks. You could have used me when all the stuff went down. When you couldn't field the team, you could have. I played for the league minimum. All right, so let's go through the rest. LeBron, yeah, and that's why I say LeBron just makes himself an easy target. So we'll end it on that. Jimmy Buckets heading back to Miami.
They're getting smoked right. They're getting smoked right now, by the way. And of course, when a player of Jimmy Butler's caliber, you know, comes back to, because we've seen this already from him when he came back to Chicago, when he got dealt to Minnesota, and when he came back to Minnesota, when he got dealt to Philadelphia, and then when he came back to Philadelphia, when he got dealt to Miami. I mean, he wasn't good in those instances, but this is a situation which had nothing to do with the fans. Like he didn't have an issue with the fans. It was a front office issue. Jimmy Butler wanted to get paid. That's what this was more than anything, Tone. He wanted to get paid, and he doesn't feel like he was compensated. I, on the other hand, disagree with that. They got Jimmy Butler at 29 years old. They had him for 5 years, and in the 5 seasons that they had him, they got everything that they were going to get out of him. Jimmy Butler wanted thank you money. That was it. He wanted 37, 38 years old thank you money. That's what he wanted. And Pat Riley wasn't trying to hear that, and I don't blame him. I don't. He was paid handsomely while he was there. He signed the extension while he was there, and he got paid. So after he got paid and everything that he did for them, 3 trips to the NBA, 3 trips to the Eastern Conference Championship, 2 trips to the NBA. I'm sorry, not 3. I'm sorry, 4. 2020, 2023. Okay, so 3 trips to the Eastern Conference Championship, 2 trips to the NBA Finals, an All-Pro, an All-League defender. That's all you're going to get out of him at 35 years old, right? That's all you're getting. You're not getting any more, Tone. So with that being said, you got 2 choices. I'm not an advocate of letting guys walk out the front door. However, I do have to say that I think Pat Riley may have offered him a contract, and it might not have been what he wanted. and then he decided that he was going to step off and he wanted out, even though he's still under contract for 2 more years. It's not like it wasn't like, this year was the last year's deal. He was under contract for 2 more years. And in the process of him being under contract for 2 more years, he was still paid handsomely. Pat Riley just didn't see paying him at age 37, 38 years old, $55, $60 million. That's not good for our business. Now, if you guys want to do that, you already paid. Now don't forget, Tone, they already paid Steph Curry thank you money. Don't forget he signed a 2-year extension at $120 million.
The Warriors have paid everybody thank you money. Now they eventually let Clay go, but Steph got thank you money, Clay got thank you money, Dre got thank you money. Which is why the GM said I'm out, because he knew the financial situation. They knew exactly what was happening with the finances.
No, he said I'm out of this. I don't want nothing else to do with this.
He saw the iceberg coming, and he's like, I'm just gonna take another boat other than the Titanic, and I'll meet you guys there. This is basically what he saw.
I'm jumping off this ship. I don't want nothing to do with this. This ship is gonna sink, and it's not sinking with me on it. No, I'm not trying to hear that.
And so, I think the way that he left the Heat, maybe, I get it when you say when an old player comes back, but I think it's not like he was I get it. He took him to the NBA Finals. However, it's not like he was like a long time Heat player. Like, he was a Bull, he was a Timberwolf, he was a Sixer, he's a Heat, now he's a Warrior. Like, he's been around. So it's not as, like when Vince Carter comes back to Toronto after playing on 12 other teams, that's different, because there was a lot of tension between the fans.
He did play 8 years in Toronto too.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he played, 4 or 5
That's why I'm using that as an example, because people are saying, what about that? But with Jimmy, I think the thing with him and Jimmy was just him and Riley. The fans didn't hate Jimmy. The players loved Jimmy. Like, they didn't hate him. So, and the fact that they're losing today, well, yeah, Curry's out. So, okay, they're losing today.
I do get it. And it sounds to me like the idea is Jimmy Butler isn't a legacy guy like Dwayne Wade or Lonzo Mourning, right? He's not one of those guys like Dwayne Wade or Lonzo Mourning who they're engraved in Miami Heat culture and they've been there, like Ronnie Cycli, guys like that, right? And I do get that, but is it fair to say that it's the obligation of organizations to take care of their players to attract other players?
That is debatable.
Why?
Because here's why. Because part of me would say, well, yeah, like, you want to get good players, you got to treat them right, and then they'll get the word out, and then more players will want to come there. Except 100%. I have examples of teams that pamper their players, and like, is Dallas a destination that I want to go play in Dallas?
No.
Is Toronto a place where people are like, I want to go play in Toronto?
I don't think that they have that kind of tradition in Toronto. No.
Well, no, I talk about pampering their players, because when you look at what Mark Cuban had done when he was the owner, and they pampered. They had the best of everything in Dallas. And they might still do that. And every player that went there went, man, like, this is first class. We get this and this and this. I've never gotten that at any other team. But other than the tax benefits of being in Texas, they don't care. Toronto, no one has taken an injured player and treated them better and kept them healthy and did all the right moves from a training perspective. I don't think there's a better organization in the league like they did with Kawhi Leonard. And everything, all people talk about is, well, yeah, you got to go through customs. Oh, the tax is really high. Like, they don't care. So that's why I say, like, yeah, should you take care of them and do that? You should, but it's not like it helps, like, because people say to get other free agents. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So if I'm an organization and I go, well, if that doesn't work, then why am I going to do it? Right? I'm just going to do it. Okay. But as long as your thought process is, I'm going to do it just to do it, cool. don't do it to think you're going to attract other people, because we've seen that it doesn't happen.
But I think you can change that perception, though, Tone. Sure, that's the perception now. Roz is on record saying, you know, how he handled Dwayne Wade's contract and ended up paying Whiteside and letting Wade walk out the front door. He's on record saying that I regret doing that to this day. He said that.
Well, no, he regrets doing it because it backfired, because Whiteside didn't turn out to be the player that he thought he was. But if Whiteside turned into a multiple defensive player of the year anchor of the defense, he never would have said that.
Of course he wouldn't have said that. But
so he only regrets it because the player flopped.
But here's the thing, though, Tone. I still think, which would explain why when he brought back Dwayne Wade in 2018, he played 2 more years and he did pay him. And he tried to make up for what he had done with Whiteside. Now, sure, if Whiteside, I don't think that because Whiteside didn't pan out is the reason why he said that. Because Dwayne Wade is a Miami Heat. He's the best player that they've ever had. And as an organization, don't get me wrong, I do just work here. If we're going to be honest, I work here, no doubt about that. And James Harden had the Philadelphia 76ers, I'm not going to say Dublin, I'm sorry. The Philadelphia 76ers and Daryl Morey have proven that in the end, this is about business. We will let you walk out the front door and we will let you go when it's time to let you go. Telling your football guy, Bill Walsh told the great Dwight Clark, I'm going to trade you 2 years before you over so I can get the best value for you instead of holding on to you. Instead of holding on to you for 2 years later.
Bill Belichick made a living on trading him a year early versus a year late.
He got that from Bill Walsh. That's where he got that from. Right? So he got that from Bill Walsh. So with that being said, Tony, I disagree with the idea that Pat Riley didn't want to. He came out and said that because Whiteside didn't pan out. I disagree with that because I do think that genuinely he wanted to keep Dwayne Wade on the roster. And I do think that he was genuinely sorry about the way he handled his contract. I do think that.
So you said something that I want to go back to for a second.
Mm-hmm.
You said this guy with the ugliest statue I've ever seen.
Yes.
That's me and Dwayne Wade's statue.
Mm-hmm.
That he was the best Miami Heat player ever.
Yes, he's the best Miami Heat player. Now, understand the difference between the better player and the best Miami Heat. Those two things. James is the best player that they've ever had. Dwayne Wade is the best Miami Heat that they've ever had. Those two things are not the same.
James is the best player to ever play on the Heat, but Wade is the best Miami Heat player.
Yes.
So kind of like you could say, like with the Lakers, right? Like Wilt's an all-time great player, but he's 100%. Not the greatest Laker of all time. Fair enough.
No, he's not. Mm-mm.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you about another team, but before I ask you about another team, do you think that Miami Heat team, would provide more entertainment, or would this matchup be more entertaining?
That matchup is pretty good. I'm not going to argue that, Tone. That matchup, that dude with the black sneakers on, he can still play a little bit of defense, right? He can still play. He can still play a little, not a lot. You know, it's a lot of gray. It's a lot of gray going on. So he don't move as fast as he used to. So, but he can still play some defense, and it would probably be more entertaining watching him fall over trying to play defense.
We'll get part 2 of that soon. So you think if he's the greatest Heat player of all time, we're going to stick with teams that don't have S's in their name.
Sure.
Do you know how many NBA teams don't have
how many
an
teams
S at the end of their?
How many teams don't have an S at the end of their name? Let's see. That's a good
already
question,
gave you 2.
Tom. Right. Let's see here. I got to run that down. Let's see. The Orlando Magic, they don't have an S in their name. Nope. The Pelicans, the Knicks, if I run down the divisions, so in the Atlantic Division, you got Toronto, Brooklyn, Philly, Toronto, Brooklyn, Philly, the Knicks. I'm missing somebody in the Atlantic Division. But all of those guys have S's in it. And the Celtics, I'm sorry, in the Atlantic Division.
I'll tell you there's 4.
Okay, there's
and
4.
You already have the Heat and the Magic.
Right, the Heat and the Magic. And then you got the Central Division. You got the Bulls, Bucks, Pacers, Cavs, Pistons. Okay, so that division is out. And then you got the Southeast Division. You got the Hawks, Heat, Magic, Wizards, Hornets. Okay, so that's out. And then you have the Western Conference, which is the Pacific Division. So you got Lakers, Suns, Warriors, Kings, Clippers. Okay, so they're out. Then you got the Braves. I'm sorry, Buffalo Braves. Then you got the Mountain Division. You got Thunder and the Jazz.
You got it. That's the 4th. Thunder, Jazz, Heat, Magic. All right. So we said Dwayne Wade's the greatest Heat of all time. Who's the greatest Magic of all time?
Dwight Howard. I think it is.
Fast.
Yes, it's Dwight Howard. Mm-hmm. Played 10 years there. Sure? Yes, he got there in 2004. Not 10 years. I'm sorry. He played 9 years there. In the 9 years he played there, he was Defensive Player of the Year 3 times. Took that team to the NBA championship. He made the All-Star team, six or 7 times. He was the best 5-man in the game. Took that team to the NBA Finals. Led the league in rebounding. I think he's their all-time leading rebounder. I think he's their all-time leading scorer. I think he's their all-time percentage leader. Yes, Dwight Howard's the best.
Why do you have him over Shaq?
Because he played there longer. That's why.
Longer.
Because he played there longer. He was not a better player than Shaq. No, he was not. I mean, let's get to the bottom of that right now. He was not a better player than Shaq, and I don't think it's a question. I won't even entertain that argument that Dwight Howard and Shaq are on the same page as players. But because he played there as long as he played there and what he did, I mean, and then it could be a bit of a contradiction because I kind of say the same thing about the Lakers because I think Magic is the best Laker, but Bryant played there 20 years.
Well, it's interesting that you brought that up because I have Magic over Kobe all-time as players, but I have Kobe over Magic as all-time Lakers. And people don't get it. And I said, well, it's strictly to do with the fact that he just played so much longer that he was able to, he just did more as a Laker. And it was unfortunate why Magic stopped playing. But okay, I'm going to throw some other Magic names to you and tell me if they rank or don't rank in the top 10. Penny Hardaway. Of Magic
players all time. Yeah. Yes, he's the top 10 Magic all time. Yes.
Patrick Ewing.
No.
Hedo Turkoglu.
Is Hedo Turkoglu a top 10 Magic all time? Penny, Shaq, Dwight Howard, Nick Anderson, Dennis Scott. He may be, Tone.
Franz Wagner.
Yeah, I'm thinking about Paolo. Is Hedo better than Paolo today?
Well, he's done.
Paolo's
needs a few more years.
Yeah, Paolo's been there 3 years, so I don't know if Hedo Turkoglu's a top 10 Magic all time.
All right. What about my favorite? What about my favorite Magic of all time?
Your favorite Magic of all time, Sean Kemp? No. Sorry, Tone.
Damn.
Yeah. Sorry.
All right. So we brought up the Magic. So let's stick on the Magic. The Magic. Let's start with Paolo Banchero.
Yep.
In the month of March, 30 points per game, 7.7 rebounds per game, 4.2 assists per game, 50, 41, 84 splits. At the beginning of the season, we were talking about the Magic. We were talking about Paolo. We were talking about Wagner.
Yes,
we were talking about this team, and then Paolo got hurt. Blah, blah, blah. Well, he's back. And they're back. Is this a team that you want to play in the playoffs?
I still want to play them in the playoffs because their offense isn't what is going to. Their offense is not that difficult to deal with come playoff time. I think that you can slow them down. Now, if they were all healthy throughout the course of the year, no, Tone, to be honest with you. I had them as a top 5 seed before the season started. And Paolo missed almost 2 months. And then France went out of the lineup. And then now they lose Jalen Suggs, so they don't really have that primary ball handler that they used to have, that they need. But I think you said, Tone, did you say 30, what, 7 and
37-5 on 50, 41, 84.
That sounds like player of the month. That's what that sounds like to me. That sounds like player of the month in the month of March. Because I just saw LeBron James win player of the month in the Western Conference, and he averaged what, almost 29, 7, and 8. So with Banchero, that sounds like player of the month. And is there any team that wants to see Orlando? I don't think that they are as scary this season as they were last season. As much as I love Paolo Banchero, who, Tone, you've heard me say this, he reminds me so much of Antoine Walker. That's who he reminds me of a lot. And I'd like to see him rebound a little bit more. Once his shot selection, once he figures that out, I think he's going to be much better. And I got to give France more credit as a transition big because he's so good at getting to the rim. And they got a damn good defensive team. Jonathan Isaac, you might get the most value out of him than anybody in the league for that amount of time. There aren't many guys in the league that you get more value in that limited time than Jonathan Isaac. So with that being said, their offense isn't as good as it can be. And I think that that's because of the inconsistency of those guys playing together. Once those guys, I feel like, start playing together more, I think Orlando's going to be a lot bigger problem than what people realize. A lot bigger. And I think that with the, I feel like with what Orlando has in terms of what they have in terms of skill set, I do think that they could play faster. I don't think they play fast enough. I do think that there should be more action off the ball. Why they don't get KCP involved as a shooter more than they do, I don't think I can't put my finger on that. And I do think that they need to get more shooting. And I think once they upgrade the roster in that aspect, I think they're going to be better.
Do you agree with Cruz, who saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus, Franz over Luka?
No, I don't agree with that. Franz is not a better basketball player than I'm not gonna say better basketball player than Luka. Let me rephrase that because I don't really like to do the better basketball player thing. I'm not like that. I do know that it does matter, but no, I don't think that. I think that that's somebody that's to be honest with you, that's definitely trolling. Like the dude in the chat who said Franz isn't a big. He's 6'10". What are you talking about? Yes, he is a big.
Yeah, he might be 6'10", but he plays like he's 6'7".
No, he's a big. He plays on the box. He rebounds. He's definitely. He might not be the consummate big like Giannis. No, but he 100% is a big. He just has guard. I think that we got to get away from this. I think we got to get away from this, big thing where, guys who have guard skills aren't bigs. Yes, they are. They 100% are big.
Yeah, they're just bigs. They're just bigs who have a wider skill set.
And Franz Wagner, who is 6'10", is a big. So to say that, to say Franz and Luka in the same breath, he's not the passer that Luka is. He ain't the playmaker that Luka is. He's definitely not the scorer that Luka is. I don't think he's the all-around player that Luka is. And I think that you guys get wrapped up in how much Luka doesn't play defense, but there are exceptions. Same thing like with Magic. Same thing like with Curry. Same thing like with Joker. Luka is that exception on offense. I can't say that about Franz. He's not that exception on offense that Luka is, and I will not put him in the same class as Luka. He's not that good. No way.
Well, I brought it up to you so that I didn't have to deal with it. All right, I'm going to give you some numbers. Yep. And I want you to tell me and name the player. Okay. 444 free throws made. 442 field goals made. Let me repeat it.
Yep.
443. This is for the chat too. Free throws made. 442 field goals made. Sounds like a free throw merchant to me. Name the player.
443 field goals, 442 free throws. Who goes to the stripe a lot in today's game? Giannis?
Smaller.
No? Okay, smaller than Giannis.
Hold on. Hey, I just proved that Mike doesn't know hoops. Mike doesn't watch basketball. Mike doesn't have every stat because it's not SGA. Okay, next. Next guess.
How about Irv?
No.
Oh, how about James Harden?
James Harden. You got
James
it.
Harden
Yes,
is the
James
guy.
Harden.
Okay. All
James
right.
Harden
it is.
James Harden has one more free throw made than field goals made. All right. Question number dos.
Yeah.
547 free throws made, 770 field goals made.
That's definitely James.
LeBron?
That's James.
It is not.
No James.
But
so
it's
a guy who
clearly makes a lot of shots.
And, a guy who
go to the stripe as much as you'd think.
Joker gets to the stripe a lot, so I'm not gonna say Joker. How about Giannis?
Smaller.
Okay, so a guy who makes a lot of how about the leading scorer, SGA? There's your winner right there, SGA.
So is the free throw merchant tag justified?
No, it isn't. It's never been justified with me with SGA because this is a guy who leads the league in scoring without going to the stripe. So no,
he goes to the stripe.
Yes,
he does go to the stripe.
He 100% goes to the stripe. But you want to take free throws off the table, and he leads the league and he scores more points a game than Joker, than Giannis. He averages the same amount of points as Kyrie Irving, who goes to the stripe, and that's right outside the top 10 in the league. It's at 12, and without going to the free throw line. So the idea of this quote unquote free throw merchant thing, I'm so sick of it off the strength that great scorers get to the stripe. All great scorers get to the stripe.
Hold on, I can't. This guy's a moron. He's a moron. I asked the player that had 443 made free throws and 442 made field goal attempts, and you said SGA. That was wrong. Then I said another question that happened to be SGA, and you said SGA before I even asked that question, and you're going to try to take credit for that? You're a moron. Change your name from Mike to moron. Okay, that being said, I had one of my players come up to me yesterday or Monday after practice and say, "Hey, can I make you more fluent?" And I said,
"Please
sure.
do."
And he said, "Is SGA a free throw merchant?" And I said, "No." And a bunch of the other kids said, "Yes, he is. Yes, he is." He goes, "Do you know if you eliminated free throws, SGA leads the league in scoring?" And then said, "Now you're more fluent." And I'm
there
like,
you go.
Sold. Like, what do you want to do? He said, scrimmage. I said, all right, we're scrimmaging.
Let's do it. I love that. I love that.
I think it's a little bit overrated. Or I think, look, does he go to the stripe a lot? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But
mm-hmm.
the numbers tell you different, and the game, like, anyways. If you watch basketball,
Mm-hmm.
I think I hate that narrative, the free throw merchant thing. It's just like, guys who go to the bucket, guys who shoot more mid range, more 2-pointers than 3-point, like those are the guys who are going to go to the line more. And yes, let's be very, 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 very clear. The superstars of the game get more calls typically, especially when they're young, typically. But it's not like, it's not so crazy that that's the only, like, to make it seem like that's the only reason they're good or that's the only reason they're scoring.
Right.
Like that, you take it too far. We have a couple more things. on the agenda. We have 25 minutes left. Is there? Do you want to talk about Cade?
Yes, please.
All right, let's do Cade. Let's do Cade Cunningham. So he is now the odds-on favorite to win Most Improved Player of the Year.
Which is kind of interesting, Tone, because you and I had this conversation about what exactly is the most improved player. What does it entail? You told me last season, you told me about how if this is the criteria for most improved player, Kobe White should have been the most improved player. Cade Cunningham, for all intents and purposes, is essentially doing the same thing he was doing last year. It's not like he's doing something drastically different this year than he was doing last year. I think last year he averaged almost 23 a game. This year he's averaging almost 26 a game. So the points aren't really that different. The field goal percentage isn't much different. The assists aren't much different. I think he averaged 7 last year. This year he's averaging 9. So I don't think that there's much of a difference in his game. However, they're winning more. He's playing downhill more.
Hold on. Let's go through it.
Sure.
So points. 25.7 this year, 22.7 last year. So up
23.
3. Blocks 0.4, 0.7. So 0.3 more. That's actually impressive. Steals 0.9, 1.
Same,
assists
basically.
Assists 7.5, 9.2. So about 1.7 more.
Sure.
Rebounds 4.3, 6.1. However, I do want to mention with the rebounds, because it does have a caveat. The year prior to that, he was averaging 6.2. So he went 6.2, 4.3, 6.1. So technically last year was a down year with that. So all of his numbers are up slightly. Who won Most Improved Player last year? Do you remember?
Yes,
I wonder if anybody.
Yes, it was Tyrese Maxey.
I was going to say, I wonder if anyone remembers who wins these awards, because there's so many of them now. So let's look at Tyrese Maxey. No, he won. Yes. So he went from 20.3 to 25.9. So 5.6. So
almost 6 points.
Yeah,
almost 6 points a game. Okay.
Blocks went up from.
By the way, Tone, before you go any further, that's double what Cade doing right now. But keep going.
Yes, fair enough. Blocks went from 0.1 to 0.5. Steals 0.8 to 1. Assists 3.5 to 6.2. Rebounds 2.9 to 3.7.
Okay.
So typically it's bigger jumps, but it looks like we're seeing a shift. Like, because I guarantee if we went back 3 or 4 years, you'd see bigger gaps in the stats. And maybe we should do that. Can you ream off Most Improved Player of the Year last 5 years?
If I remember correctly, without looking it up, I think Brandon Ingram won it. In addition to Brandon Ingram winning it, let's see. I'll look this up for you right now, Tone, because that's the guy that I'm thinking about off the top of my head. But I'll look this up for you right now. I think Brandon Ingram won it.
So
his scoring average.
We had Maxey last year, Markkanen the year before, Ja Morant, Randall, Ingram, Pascal Siakam, Victor Oladipo, and then Giannis.
I do remember that.
I believe if you go back a little bit, you'll see that there's a bigger jump than what we're seeing. But I don't know that for a fact. Feel free. You pick one of all those names: Markkanen, Morant, Randall, Ingram, Siakam, Oladipo, Giannis.
So, of the guys that I'm looking at right now, Tone, like you just said, Victor Oladipo, his scoring average went up from, let's see, the year before he's averaging 23 a game. Siakam, his scoring average goes up to 17 a game, which tells me that in 19, because I think his rookie year was in 18. I think he showed up in 17, 18. Yep, he showed up in that. So that was year 3. So he goes from averaging 7 a game to 17 a game.
Yeah.
Right?
He
goes from averaging. Yeah. He goes from averaging 7 to 17 a game. I mean, that's a significant jump, Tone. Significant jump. The rebounds. the rebounds aren't much different. He goes from averaging, actually, yeah, it is. He goes from averaging 4.5 to almost 7 the next year. Turnovers, he was turning the ball over. The blocks are around the same. He went from 0.5 to 0.7. The biggest jump would be in points per game. That's Siakam, right? So then I look at.
Hold on, but can I say something though? You know what the biggest jump is for
Yep.
Siakam? He
What's
goes from just over 20 to about 32 minutes per game. Like that's a whole extra quarter he's playing.
That's a
like
lot
it's
more
12
minutes,
it's 12 more minutes per game, and I don't think we look at that. So look, not everybody does this, but yeah, I expect if you play it like it's a full quarter, 12 minutes, that's a lot.
Yes, it's a lot more minutes. I can do a lot more.
If I looked at Cade, is he playing more minutes? Like, or do you think that they're changing what they look at? Like, is this becoming another award that wins matter? I guess is where I'm going.
It may be because Philly was significantly better, and then with Lauri Markkanen, the year he won Most Improved, I mean his minutes went up almost 5 minutes a game. He went from 30.8 to 34 a game, but his scoring average went from 15 a game to 25 a game. Tone almost 26 a game.
25.6, yeah,
almost 26 a game. That's a huge jump.
On
jump, and to go from
less than 4 more minutes. So good for him.
Right.
No, granted, he took a lot more shots.
To go from 5.7 rebounds to almost 9. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
that is pretty impressive. And to also go from, to your point, 11.5 shots to 17 shots. Yes, that's a big deal. That is a huge deal. So for Cade Cunningham, who I haven't seen much, right? It's in terms of his numbers, there's not much else there. You're getting basically the same production, you're just getting it in a different way. And you're getting it on a better team, which kind of it kind of bothers me, Tone, and it bothers me in the aspect that if you look at what's going on in Detroit and that team that they had, and I say this, and I probably said this to you before, but last offseason, when they added Tobias Harris, Tim Hardaway Jr., Malik Beasley, and Paul Reed, you didn't care. You didn't. You thought that this team was going to be garbage again. 100% you thought this team was going to be garbage again. So instead, they get better, and a lot of that had to do with coaching. I think that JB Bickerstaff is using Cade more in one-on-ones. I think he's utilizing his athletic ability. I think he's speeding up the game a little bit more, making him play a little bit faster, getting downhill, and I think that that's enhancing his game. So that 23 that was last year, that 25 looks a lot different this year than it did. Has he improved statistically, drastically? No, he hasn't. And when you're talking about being the most improved player, where is the jump? Oh, well, I'll tell you where the jump is. It's in Denver with Christian Brown, who basically doubled his scoring average. He's now in the starting lineup. To your point, Tone, when you're talking about a guy who's actually playing more minutes, Christian Brown, I'll tell you right now, Christian Brown is now playing from last season, which was his second year in the league, to this year. He goes from playing 20 minutes to 33 minutes a game, Tone. 20 minutes to 33 minutes a game. He goes from averaging 7 a game to 15 a game. His rebound total at 3.7 is up to 5 now. And his shots, he was shooting 5.5. He was shooting almost 6. He's shooting 10 shots the game this season, Tone. That's almost double of what he was doing last year. That's not improvement. That's not more improvement than Cade Cunningham. And on top of that, they're a playoff team. So
I think the expectations were higher, though. I know that's not what it's been like in the past for Denver. Like, you expected Denver to be better than Detroit.
I did expect them to be better than Detroit. That part I won't argue.
So
part I won't argue.
Who won Trae Young's second year? He went from, thanks all dubs, he went from 19 a game to 29 a game How was he not the most improved?
So Trae Young came in 18. Was it 18 or 19? That was the year that Luka was drafted. So that was the year Pascal Siakam won it. So Pascal Siakam went from 7 to 8 to 17 a game. And so Trae Young's second year in the league, that's Brandon Ingram. That's I think that's the 2019-2020 season, if I'm not mistaken, because Trae Young showed up in the 18-19 season. That was his first season, right? I think that was his first season, and Trae Young wasn't even. He was 9th. Wow, Trae Young went 29. He went almost 30-9, and Bam was second that year, and because he went 15, 16 and 10. And Brandon Ingram went 23-6. Damn, Trae Young went almost 30 and he went 30-9, and he didn't win most improved considering what he did the year before.
He didn't get a sniff. That might have been one of the biggest. That might have been all dubs. That might have been one of the biggest snubs ever.
19 a game to almost 30 a game. Wow, that's pretty impressive, Tom.
That's crazy.
19 a game to almost 30 a game. Yikes. That is impressive, man. Oh, yo, that's wild as hell.
All right, Jay Fernandez.
I think it's Christian Brown.
Hello,
Brown,
can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I think it's Christian Brown, Tom.
How's it going, guys?
Yo,
good man. How are you? Long time no see.
Yeah, doing pretty good. Man, it's crazy season. We about to playoffs right around the corner. I got a question for y'all though about this OKC team. How do you guys think this OKC team measures up all time as a defensive team?
I think they're with their rotations, how smart they are, and not having like one standout player like the Bulls did with Scottie Pippen or Detroit did with Ben Wallace. I think that they're up there with like that Boston team that had Kevin Garnett. I think that it depends on how they win. It depends on what they do, because like in order to be in the same class with these guys, you got to win. You have to. And you have to.
So they can't be an all-time great defense if they get smoked out in round 2.
No, they can't be. No.
Look, people will talk about the regular season, but you're right. They won't go if a team doesn't perform. If a team doesn't perform in the playoffs, it makes it really hard to put them up into that conversation with all-time great teams, right? However, I think we're going to look back, and I'm going to mute you for a second because I'm getting feedback from you. We're going to look back at this team, and because I think they're going to change some of the rules in the NBA. I think they're going to allow a little bit of hand checking, that 3-second, the defensive 3-second rule. I think they're going to tweak that a little bit. So I think some of the rules are going to tweak a little to allow for some more defense, more touching. And I think people will look back at this team and say, considering the rules that were in place, this was one of the best defenses we've seen. And because and that's what I think again, but we're not going to have that conversation. If they're out in the first round, second round, we're not going to talk about it.
Have we ever seen a defense that's like been this great and not win a championship though? Like, have you ever seen like a defense that's like so good, like, oh my gosh, it's just so far and away better than everybody else defensively, and just not win a championship? Because generally that's how it goes. It's like you have a defense like this, you win championships.
Well, no,
Golden State was damn good in 2016. I think they were third in the league in defense. They were that good. But to your point, no, I have not seen it.
Yeah, not a team
as a collection.
Yeah, as a collect, like you're
not as a collection.
Way better than everybody else defensively.
Not as a collection. Yeah, not as a collection. I have not seen this. But it doesn't matter if you don't win.
Yeah,
if you don't win, it doesn't matter.
If you don't win, it removes you from the conversation.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Any all-time conversations. Yeah, Chill. I gotta ask, Chill. I have to ask. Like Tatum, what's going on with that injury, Chill? What is going on there?
Well, he walked off the floor yesterday. He wasn't carried off the floor. He didn't look gimpy. He walked off the floor yesterday. So
I'm panicking, Chill. I saw that guy go down.
Relax. It's not that bad.
Sabonis is a dirty player, man. He's a
No,
dirty player.
No, he isn't. Mm-mm.
He is in my book after what he did.
Nah, you never seen
Come
that.
on,
I've never seen anything like that.
That's some Zaza
That's
Pachulia
your
stuff.
Boston
Chill.
fandom, but hold on, that's your Boston fandom. If you want to come back on, stay tuned because we've got like a bunch of people waiting. So stay on. Speaking of injuries, Damian Lillard out indefinitely with a blood clot. That's the second one this season. Coincidence?
I don't like it. No, it's not coincidence, Tone. There's something going on with these athletes with these blood clots. What's the is it something that they're taking? Is it something? Is it the way that they're training? Because we've had this in the past, like when with Wemby having a blood clot. I mean, Olajuwon had it, and this wasn't until year 5, but they were able to get it under control. They handled it, and he was able to have a productive career, no doubt about that. But this ended Chris Bosh's career. It destroyed his career. He was over.
Yeah, Chris Bosh's. I don't think they caught it in time, or they didn't treat it, because with the issue that caused him was that it spread, I believe, to his lungs, and that's when you're over. So, all right. I don't know if this is Jacob the Clipper, but it is Jacob.
What up?
No, it is not the Clipper, but I was actually gonna ask you about that breaking news with Damian Lillard. Like, I don't think this puts a whole new spin on things for the Bucks. Like, and the biggest thought I have in my mind is like, this just means a more load for Giannis to carry. And
They're
you know
out
what
in
happens?
round one. They're out in round one.
And a chance that Giannis could get hurt with him trying to just do so much and having to do so much over and over again, because it's just been a repeated pattern. But one more and I'll let you go. In your guys' view, how good of a player was Clyde Drexler?
He's a top 5 2-guard all time in my estimation.
So underrated. Underrated.
And that was kind of my thought, because obviously I can look at the box scores, I can look at the stats, I can look at game film, but I didn't get to put it to the eye test. But he looked like a dang good player. Like,
he was better. However good you think he is, he was better. I'll just say this to you, Jacob. Anthony Edwards, he would have ate his lunch.
Well, I'll say it to you this way. People try to use this against what I'm about to say, but it's actually a pro. There was a time when we were having a conversation about Clyde versus Mike. That's how good he was. That's not how bad the era was. That's not how bad Mike is, because people say, "Oh, Jordan stinks." No, that's how good he was playing. If you had a player, a 2-guard, who was on a team that most people, we could do it, but most people couldn't name the starting 5 of that Portland Trailblazers team, and he was by far their best player, who led them to 2 finals appearances in 3 seasons, we would be talking completely different if it was right now. If you knew his game. So yeah, I that's the best way I can say it. It's on your page, yeah. Didn't you interviewed Clyde? Didn't you?
I did. I talked to him. Mm-hmm.
You need to send me the link. I gotta post it.
Yeah.
I will. He do you remember, Jacob, the conversation that was going on between LeBron James in 2016 when with LeBron James and Steph Curry in 2016, like who was the better player? Because that was a real conversation. And then James ended up shutting that down. That was Jordan and Drex in 1992.
Yes, yeah. It seemed like kind of the same situation.
Yes, that's what it was. And Jordan put it to best. Jordan put it to bed in 1992. It was over after that, but that was a conversation going on in 1992.
Yeah, they probably never should have told him he couldn't shoot. It's probably a bad idea.
That was a terrible
I think
idea.
he'd actually dominate in today's game too.
I think he would. Yes.
Yeah,
he would be great in
100%.
today's game. Yes, he would be.
Absolutely.
No doubt.
All right. Thanks, Jacob.
Good to talk to you, brother.
Yeah.
It wasn't Jacob the Clipper. It was Jacob the Trailblazer. Zol.
What up?
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you?
What up?
I'm good. Would you agree that Jason Richardson was a role player in the NBA?
They all role players. Every last
Jason
one.
Richardson.
What kind of role player are we talking about with Jason Richardson?
Less than a star. A role player. Not a star, not a superstar.
He was
Okay,
not a
so gener-
superstar. He
Okay,
wasn't. He
so-
was not a superstar. No, he
No, he's
wasn't.
definitely not a superstar.
Okay, so he was a role player.
Mhm.
Generally, the kids of role players, Kobe Bryant, Steph Curry, do end up as all-time greats. If Jace Richardson gets drafted by the Raptors, he will go down as an all-time great. Is that crazy to say?
If Jace Richardson, this is the kid that plays at Michigan State.
That's correct. His son.
So you think that if he comes into the league, he's going to be an all-time great?
I think
you're basing that off the fact that his father wasn't awesome. So
that's
the
correct.
The statistics say that he's going to be awesome.
Yes.
The logic isn't nuts. Most superstar players don't have superstar kids, but superstar kids are typically children of role / non-superstar players. So there's some logic to it.
Sure.
Right. But what increases the odds here is he's in that Toronto Raptors range, and the Raptors have the greatest development staff in the league. They have a top 3. They have the best health staff in the league. Yes, they do.
No, they don't. No, they
How
don't.
do
They're not better than Oklahoma City. So let's chill out on that.
Yes, they are. Fred VanVleet was undrafted.
You can't prove that. You can't prove that.
Fred VanVleet was undrafted. Pascal Siakam was 23rd. OG Anunoby was 15th. They turned.
It's subjective, but I would say
100% is subjective. 100%.
If not the best, they do have one of the best, and
I won't argue that part.
I just said
that part right there.
Yes, one of the best.
Yes,
trainers.
we do.
Yes, for sure.
Yes,
yeah.
And coaching too. Coaching too.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited to see that. Anyway, Chill.
I was wrong about Darko too. Darko's a pretty damn good coach.
He's fantastic at developing. Anyway, Chill. I hope you don't get offended when I say you don't watch games. It's really just me being like, it's just jokes at the end of the day.
It's not funny. It's not funny at all. It's not. It's not funny.
I apologize. Chill.
It's not funny at all.
All right. All love. All right. This is 50 Cent minus 48.
What up?
That's real funny.
That is funny.
That is funny. I like that.
Yeah, that is funny.
Hey,
at least no one can tell you don't have 2 pennies to rub together. You good?
Yeah. Hey, but what I was gonna say, man, when I listen to these shows, a lot of times, I love y'all opinion. Everybody has an opinion, so we have to respect each other's opinion. Nonetheless, I mean that's what it is. I don't care if you like Jordan, you like Kobe, whatever. You can argue someone's opinion all you want. That person is still gonna respect that person's. You still have to respect that person's outlook on what it is. It's just like having a child. My child cannot do anything bad in my eyes, and you have to respect that.
Right.
You know, at the end of the day. But I don't agree with.
No. But your opinion could be wrong, and just because you have an opinion, I might respect you, but I don't have to continuously listen to you tell me that okay, I don't agree with this. Now, if you're gonna keep telling it to me, and I'm telling you I don't agree with this, and you try like for example, I'm talking to this guy this morning on my TikTok live. Come on, Chill. You know that Jordan's the GOAT. You know that Jordan's the GOAT. If I knew that Jordan was the GOAT, I'd say that. I would say that.
See, I think people don't understand. There's a difference between an opinion and a fact. Because they will state an opinion and say that's a fact. It's not. It's not. A fact can be. A fact is there's evidence-based evidence, like 2 + 2 is 4. You cannot dispute that. As hard as some people have tried.
You cannot argue facts. No, you can't.
Opinion.
That's where it gets muffled up when someone says an opinion and then someone says a fact. Blue is better than red. Look, that's an opinion. Now, when you start stating facts, Michael Jordan scored more points than LeBron James. Now you're talking about things that are fact, that are factual. See, then I can come in and say, no, that's incorrect. And that's what I have a problem with when I talk to people, and I got to remember who I'm speaking with, because now we got YouTube and all these things like that. They can watch a 10-minute clip and think they watched the game. Like, bro,
Mhm.
And it also matters too.
Hey, just remember this. Just remember this. It loses a bit in the translation, but my mom always used to say this in Greek, anyways. Opinions are like, and I'll keep it clean. Opinions are like buttholes.
Everybody
Everyone
got
has one, and some of them stink.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My
It
girl
loses a
just
little bit,
laughed.
but that's the gist.
Mm-hmm. There you have it. Yes, sir. No doubt. Yes, sir.
All right, we're at time. 2 cents. Did you have a question, or was that?
Yeah, no. Hold up, man. You made us laugh in here, bro. But hey, but at the end of the day, when you say stuff like that, you know, that's why I love watching y'all show, because you're rational. I just can't deal with irrational people, because you're dealing with people that are experts. What do you do when you deal with people who are not experts on the topic? We got well over 10,000 hours in our topic that we're talking about. I don't talk to what's that dude name? Like Neil deGrasse or whatever. I can't talk to him about neuro science and stuff like that. I would never do that to him. Like these younger guys, they think they know that little stuff that they're talking about. Bro, you don't have enough hours. So a lot of times I don't entertain it. I couldn't handle when you talk to people like Mars and some of the other people. Some of them ain't even played the game, can't dribble a basketball, and don't know their left hand from their right hand. But you are trying to educate them and stuff like that, and they can't listen to them. I'm not going to take my time to even do it. But it's entertainment, and that's why we tune in to watch it. And it's okay, because you guys are around my age group, and that's why I can kind of tune in to listen to what you're saying, because at the end of the day, you're still rational about what my opinion is. I'm not even stating a lot of factual things, and you just listening to what my opinion might be. That's all it is.
Fair enough.
I appreciate you, brother.
Absolutely, brother. Good to talk to you. Absolutely.
Sambo.
That's who it is. What up?
Hello, Chilton. How are you?
What up?
Chilton, I have a question for you.
Sir.
What is your favorite cologne?
I'm not really a cologne guy, and the reason why is because I've always resigned myself to the idea of your natural scent is what draws in a woman. I've always felt like that. I mean, don't get me wrong,
because I see you as a Drakkar Noir kind of guy.
No, I'm not.
I'm soaping. Drakkar Noir, Dior Fahrenheit.
No, I'm soaping. I'm soaping water, brother. That's me. I've tried the cologne thing. It's kind of corny. Not that it's, not that I'm gonna take corny back. It's just just not my thing.
Oh, but you don't like cologne on men? You don't like to smell
men?
I
don't mind it on you. I mean, if that's your thing, that's your thing. I don't have a problem with that. Now,
if I hug you, Chilton, you want me to smell like flowers or what?
I mean, you're a dude. I mean, as a dude, I mean, that's what it is. So
thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sambo. Thank you, Sambo. You live in Miami. That you smell probably a lot of cologne.
What up?
Good evening. Was your panel question about Draymond Green? Or just random?
Sorry, so there wasn't a specific question. So we kind of let you come up and pick your question, but we were talking about Draymond Green being the favorite for DPOY. That was one of the topics we did discuss. Yes.
Oh, okay. I just want to stay on topic because I heard somebody come up here talking about a GOAT conversation.
You can change the topic if you like.
Oh no, me and my brother up here already done had that conversation, so I didn't want to rehash something we've already talked about. As far as Draymond Green being Defensive Player of the Year, though, he got a good shot. Even though me personally, I would give it to Lou Dort, because I just personally believe that the best defensive team should usually have the best defensive player. You know what I mean? But that's just me. So if it was me choosing, I'd probably pick Lou Dort, considering OKC defense is so stifling Considering today's modern NBA, you don't see defense like what you see in OKC. You just don't see it in the league like that anymore.
Especially the shifting and the rotation.
It's rare, yeah.
That shit, that rotation, the shifting, the guys shooting gaps. Man, it's sometimes I'm watching and look like it's 8 of them out there.
Yeah, their defense is pretty stifling considering you can't touch people with your hands and forearms and all that stuff.
Yeah.
My thing is, I want the 90s back, you want to be honest. Like, I miss that kind of basketball, the physicality and some hard fouls and, just men being men. I think they done, put skirts on a lot of these basketball players.
I think you're going to see some of the physicality coming back. I think they're going to tweak the rules, not as much. The 90s, because there was a reason they made a bunch of changes after the 90s. It wasn't great for TV. So
yeah, I know it was violent and physical, but at least it was manly. I just don't like the demasculation of all the professional sports now. Football is the same way. You can't hit people and all that other stuff.
Yeah, I can dig
like.
Definitely.
It seems like only hockey is the only sport that hasn't really changed too much.
Let's not over exaggerate how physical it was, but they do need to go back a little bit. Not all the way. Yeah. I appreciate
how far you think I should go back?
No. I said the rules. I said they shouldn't go back all the way.
Oh, okay. Well, when you mean all the way, you mean like 1970s all the way, 1980s all the way?
No. What he's talking about is not all the way in terms of the rules that they had in the 90s. We can implement some of that stuff, but the other stuff, nah.
Like I said, I think allowing a little bit of hand checking, the 3-second rule maybe. I don't know if it's a smaller area that you have to get out of in 3 seconds, or it's only 2 seconds, or whatever.
Okay.
I feel like there's a happy medium between the physicality and let's not forget the one thing that removing the physicality did was we were able to see how much skill all of these players could develop when you couldn't have a guy out there who was just a bruiser, who was just a defensive guy. Everybody now has to have some level of dribbling, shooting, passing, like to a certain extent. Like Zach Edey is a really good example. People were talking about him not being even drafted in the first round because he wasn't a good enough 3-point shooter of all things for a 7'4", whatever the hell guy he is.
In 1995, he's the number 1 pick in the draft.
Number 1 pick, yeah. And so that's why I said I don't want to go all the way back to that, but I think there's a happy medium where we can still see the skill, still see the exciting plays, still see, the ball handling, all of those things that we love, but also see, a guy like Lou Dort be able to, put his hand on someone a little bit and make and really play defensive basketball. I think there's a happy medium somewhere. We're out of time, so I don't mean to rush you off, but there's 2 people waiting and we're out of time.
Thank you.
I want to give everybody a time. I appreciate you coming up. Though. I do believe this is true, but I need you to confirm. There was a comment that asked, "Did you have the Michael Jordan cologne?"
Yes, I did.
I did.
Yes, I did.
When I saw the comment, I'm like, "Yeah, he did."
My girl bought it for me for my birthday. Yes, she did.
There you go. Dalamzu. I'm just warning you ahead of time. You have to be quick because we're actually now past time, and this was supposed to be a shorter show.
What up?
Who's impressed you in the March Madness tournament?
Who has impressed me in the March Madness tournament? Florida.
No, players, prospects.
Players.
Who cares about teams, bro? We don't watch for teams.
See, that's the problem with today's fan. They don't watch for teams.
Players?
That's terrible. That's
100% what I do. I look at the NBA prospects and then I watch their teams.
Who has impressed me? That kid Clayton.
They're not fears, chill.
That kid Clayton for Florida. He's damn good.
Yeah, and Cooper Flag is the next Kevin Garnett. Thank you.
Good luck with that. All right, brother. Good to talk to you.
He's the next Keith Van Horn. Big Jim will end the show.
What up?
Thoughts on Doc Rivers saying he needs credit for the 3 wins on the 3-1 leads he's blown?
I forgot about that. I wanted to talk about that. That dude is crazy.
That's all I have to say. Nothing else.
He did say that. Yes, he did say that.
Big Jim, you're ending this with a bang.
Yes, he did say that.
Bang. How the hell do you say I don't get enough credit for the 3 games that I won? Dude, you choked away a 3-1 lead multiple times.
Yes, he did. Mm-hmm. He 100% said that. Yo, we did push it to 7 though, so
I had something else to end on, but we're ending on that. It doesn't get better than that.
That's a mic drop right there.
That's a mic drop right there. We're good.
Hey Ox, if Sabonis get in that lane one more time and he doesn't shoot the ball 4 feet away from the basket, I'm gonna lose my mind. I can't handle this dude, Joe.
Sabonis, much like the Kings,
damn, shoot the basketball, big fella. Damn. All right, guys. Yeah. Okay, guys. Y'all know what time it is when y'all see us. You know where to find us at. Every Tuesday night, me and my man Tony Tone. This is where we are. We do this every Tuesday night. We give you basketball, pro basketball, college basketball, any kind of basketball. So you know where to find us. We will be back next week. Until then, put on a suit, drink water, don't drink and drive. Hey, man, call your mother. When's the last time you talked to your mother? I just talked to my mother this weekend. Call your mother. Until then, take it light. But take it. Absolutely, man. It's good to see you guys.
It's too late.
Oh, Canada. Put on a suit, drink water, don't drink and drive. Hey, man, call your mother.
It means nothing. It means nothing. Nah, they lying to you. It's about the money.
Now you're more fluent.